Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of On Point for today, the 5th day of December 2025. My name is Alexis Jeffers, and of course I'm here every Friday afternoon from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. And indeed, it is always my pleasure coming here to spend an hour with you and perhaps add some flavor to your lunch, because it's the lunch break for most persons here on the island of Nevis and throughout the Federation, of course. And so I spend my lunch hour with you while you're having your lunch. I just keep your company. Let's put it that way. It's as simple as that, yes. So yes, let me start by saying good afternoon to all those who are listening right here on the island of Nevis, all of the parishes, 5 parishes that is, and more particularly my constituency up there in St. James, where I live and where I enjoy being every day of my life, because it's a wonderful constituency to be in. We have done some marvelous things up there in St. James, and it is always my pleasure to leave Charlestown and say I'm going north, going home, going to St. James. Yes, so good afternoon to all of the residents and visitors over there in St. James and throughout Nevis, of course. And down in St. Kitts, let me say good afternoon to the whole of St. Kitts. I know we do have a large following down there, and so we appreciate your listenership. We appreciate the time you spend with us in terms of listening to the broadcast, the various broadcasts here on Von Radio. And going further afield, of course, the neighboring islands, Sabre, Statia, St. Bart's, French and Dutch St. Martin, U.S. and British Virgin Islands, and Puerto Rico, and then coming back towards the east and south, Antigua and Barbuda, Dominica, Guadeloupe, Martinique, St. Lucia, Grenada, St. Vincent. Who am I missing? I think I've covered everyone south except Trinidad and Tobago and Guyana. And then we move up north once again to folks who are listening, of course, in the United States, starting from South Florida all the way up to the northeast, New Hampshire and Vermont and those smaller states, and then go across to the Midwest. I do have a lot of family members over there in Tennessee, for example, and of course Missouri and all those places where we have Nevisians working and studying, and then we go all the way past Texas and head over to the west, California, Oregon, Washington State, and of course the whole of Canada, including all of those different cities, major cities that we have, all nationals living and working and studying. Toronto, Ontario, Manitoba, and I like to say Saskatchewan is one of those major, not a city, but it's what it's called now. It's called perhaps a district or whatever it is. So they don't have states in Canada. They have a province, I believe that's the name, the word that is used, yeah. And then of course we go up to Europe, the whole of the United Kingdom, and then of course France, Germany, and all of those European countries where we have our nationals living and working and studying, and indeed all the way into Asia, Japan, and more so the Republic of China, Taiwan, that we have a wonderful relationship with that country. And indeed it's morning there now, just about 5 minutes past 1 on a Saturday morning. So I want to say good morning to all those who are up and about and listening to this program and any other programming that is emanating from the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. I know when persons are in those far-flung countries, they would want to stay in touch to see what is happening back at home. And so I want to say to you that we are good here, wonderful weather, which I'll get to just now. But of course, we are having a wonderful time in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. In spite of and despite of whatever challenges there are, things are going well here. Of course, at this point in time, we normally would acknowledge those families that are in the bereaved column, and anyone who have lost a loved one. I want to express my sympathies to you. I want to specifically express sympathies to Mr. Ashton Williams down there in St. Martin. I believe this morning I would have heard during the obituary period, I would have heard an announcement of the passing of his wife, and I want to express our sympathies to you, Ashton, and pray that God would provide you with the strength and all of the sustenance needed to go through this difficult time. And any other family that is out there that is not necessarily grieving at this time, but have some challenges in terms of illness, and a family member who might be at the Alexandria Hospital or any other hospital here in the Federation, or perhaps they're overseas seeking medical attention, I want to say that we are praying for you, and we are praying that God will provide you with strength during these challenging times. It is always a difficult time to lose someone, or to have someone who is incapacitated by some health challenge. It's difficult financially and otherwise, and so we want to continue to pray for you. And so anyone who is not feeling as they did yesterday, they're feeling different today in terms of not being 100%, well, we hope you'll get better soon, and so you'll be up and about and on your feet again, and make the contribution that you have always made to the development of this blessed land. So God be with you, and best wishes. Of course, there are persons who are under the weather today, and there are some who are celebrating. So if you're celebrating a birthday, I want to say happy birthday to you. Today, of course, who is celebrating today? I don't have anyone on my list, but I know for sure tomorrow it appears that Esther Matthew there in Jessops. We all know Esther, the Blue Queen there in Jessops. She's a vibrant, vivacious, happy person. She's celebrating tomorrow, so I suspect tomorrow will be one of those days that will be different than today for her. Or maybe she has started celebrating today. I'm not sure. But be that as it may, Esther, have a wonderful day when it comes tomorrow. And we thank God for your life, and you would also, I'm sure, thank God for saving you and giving you what was necessary to see another birthday. And so we wish you all the best. Have fun tomorrow. And of course, Mrs. Quando Jones over there in Nisbet Settlement, she'll be celebrating tomorrow as well. A teacher there at the Charlestown Secondary School, and she is celebrating tomorrow. So Mrs. Jones, have a wonderful day tomorrow. And all those who will be celebrating over this weekend, I want to express the same best wishes to you as well. On Monday, my good friend there in Barnaby, Patwalk area, Ariel Maynard, will be celebrating. Ariel, you know, Ariel is such a bundle of joy, you know. She's always happy, so Monday will be no different. So Ariel, have a wonderful day when it comes, or when your birthday comes on Monday. And of course, up in Fountain, my good friend there, Elsa Hanley, will be celebrating on Monday as well. Elsa, I'll stop by and say hello to you as well, to her, and wish your birthday when it comes on Monday. And anyone else who is celebrating between now and Monday or through in the course of next week, have a wonderful birthday when it comes. I had mine last week, and as I said to you, I believe I did say it when I was here last, that I'm going to go and celebrate. And yes, I did, and I had a wonderful time. And I always say, when your birthday comes, celebrate as if it's the last. We are wishing and praying and hoping for many more years to come, but you never know. And so every time you have a birthday, spend time with yourself. Don't wait for anyone to make it a good day for you or a wonderful day for you. It starts with you. And once you're having a wonderful time, people will jump on board and even make it even much better for you as well too. So enjoy your birthday, those of you who are celebrating. Yesterday was O'Neill Hines. You know that guy from up there in Cane Garden. Yeah, O'Neill has been around for some time. O'Neill had his birthday yesterday. Well, hopefully you had a wonderful day yesterday, O'Neill. Well, we just say Hines, you know. Where am I getting this O'Neill? That's his correct name. But we just say Hines, you know. Hines, I hope you had a wonderful day yesterday, and probably when we meet up somewhere, we'll have a drink together, I suppose, right? So he's always someone you can rely on and call on. So we appreciate what you have done for us, O'Neill, or Hines, and so we want to reciprocate and give you all of the blessings that is necessary to sustain you throughout, so that you can see another birthday as well. Okay, so moving right along from that, I did say the weather outside is beautiful, lovely weather. And so when I was coming into the studios, I took a glance up at Saddle Hill. Picturesque, very clear, nice. And Nevis Peak had a little bit of cloud cover on it, yes, but outside is just beautiful. The rain, we've been getting some rain, yes, and that has really transform the landscape outside. The place is green and lush, and of course, this is opposite to what some of you may be experiencing in the United States or anywhere in the north, whether it's United States or Canada or even in England or wherever you are, because I know I've seen some weather system traveling across the landscape of the United States from the west over to the east, snow and sleet and rain and the whole mix. And I know that you're there now in some very cold weather, and we're down there in some nice warm and breezy conditions. That is just to tempt you. It's just some temptation for you to come on home, spend a week, and as they say, thaw out a little bit, get some of the coldness out of your body and get some warmth back into your system, and then you go back up to the cold. Because I know if you have to go back to work and do whatever you normally would do in the United States and wherever else, you'll have to be there and not here. But some time here in Nevis will be a welcome change for you, because the weather here is just gorgeous, beautiful. And so I'm inviting one and all to come on down and enjoy what we have to offer here on Nevis, yes? So, as we go into the weekend, I'm sure if we have this weather, a good time to get out and enjoy some of the sceneries here on Nevis and to have a wonderful time, yeah? Okay, moving right along quickly. Just a couple of quick public service announcements. Yes, this is the Yuletide season. Christmas, as they say, is around the corner, and around this time there are a lot of things that persons would do to have fun, enjoyment, and of course the Christmas tree lighting season is on. It started on Wednesday evening down there in Charlestown, which is, we call it the national Christmas tree lighting. And I say national, but it's the Nevis, the biggest tree. Well, is it? Because Zion is normally much bigger than that, but it is that ceremony that starts the whole ball rolling in terms of Christmas tree lighting. So from here on in, all the way down to, I believe, the 22nd thereabout of December, we'll have Christmas tree lighting almost every night, or every other day, whatever the case might be. What is most important though is that up in St. James there will be some Christmas tree lighting throughout December, the early part of December. And I just want to say quickly that, of course, on Monday evening, this upcoming Monday, the 8th of December, is the Christmas tree lighting up there in Butlers, and that starts at 7 p.m. So those of you who are listening and love to go to these ceremonies, please come on over to Butlers and show some support to the team there in Butlers, Cheryl and Nurse Carolyn and all those who organize that Christmas tree lighting there in Butlers. They would certainly appreciate your presence so that they can have a wonderful time over there. And then, of course, on the 13th, which is next Saturday, 7 p.m., it is the turn for the Brick Hill community. So Brooklyn will have their Christmas tree lighting on the 13th of December. That is next Saturday, and it will be right in the heart of Brooklyn. So you can't miss that. Come on out and support. That's at 7 p.m. And on the 16th, which is not Tuesday of this week, the following Tuesday, will be the Camps area, Camps Christmas tree lighting up there on the old Combermere School grounds. The old Combermere School grounds at 7 p.m. as well. And indeed on the 18th would be the Fountain Christmas tree lighting right next or opposite Carbo Shop next to Elfrida, that business place right there in the heart of Fountain, opposite Carbo Shop. Yeah, that's at 7 p.m. as well on the 18th of December. And of course on the 20th of December there are a few Christmas tree lighting ceremonies in St. James. Ghana's, which is down there next to Isilma's shop. We call it Ghana's, just around the corner from Carbo Shop. Then you'll have Elfrida's Christmas tree lighting, Ghana's Christmas tree lighting, and that starts at 7 p.m. And of course up at Cedar View Housing Community or Development, they start at 7 p.m. as well on the 20th. Tracy Fraser and her team are planning that particular event up there. But prior to that, at 6:30 down at the Newcastle bus stop, right in the heart of Newcastle, or right on the main there in Newcastle Village, it would be the Newcastle Christmas tree lighting. So 6:30 Newcastle 7 o'clock is up at Isilma, across from Isilma's shop there in Ghana's, and then at 7 o'clock as well. Next, that will be the following Saturday, 2 Saturdays from now, on the 20th, will be the Cedar View Housing Development. Okay, so those, you'll hear more about those as you go along, but just wanted to put that out so you can put that in your put those things in your calendar as well. Quickly, I just want to on behalf of Alexis Jeffers and the Links Promotion, want to express their profound thanks and appreciation to the entire general public for supporting their event last Saturday evening. That was their 5th annual Pork and Beer Festival. They have sent their appreciation to you, the general public, those who came and those who would have done some work on their behalf in terms of sharing the flyers and so forth. And if you would have encouraged someone to come, they want to thank you for your support. It was a massive turnout, I will say. I will put a footnote here and say that I would have given them that idea 5 years ago, and they ran with it and they have made something big of it. Yeah, and I want to say that's what young people would do when you give them some ideas and some push and some encouragement. Young people can get things done, and I want to thank them for doing just that and have created an event that is consistent with what we want to happen here on the island, meaning there must be activities throughout the calendar year so as to provide things for persons to partake of and support, and that is what they have done up there at in Brickhill. And so last Saturday night was a wonderful evening there in Brickhill on the hard court up there at Whitehall. Well done, and I want to wish them well for future events as well. I also want to express thank you on behalf of my cousin Juliet Jeffers, who would have had that world premiere of Pangal down there at the NIPAC last Friday evening. It was a wonderful turnout. The NIPAC was full, yeah, and so she is very appreciative of that. And what I want to say is that this movie Pangal is really a showcase of Nivisian culture, music, and our Nivisian identity, so to speak. We identify with the pan, we identify with Culturama, we identify with all kind of folklore and that kind of cultural blend here on the island of Nevis. And so the movie Pangal is centered around that, and so she would have done a marvelous job with that world premiere. It is not the end of it, because she's now going to go out and seek financial assistance, financial help, financial support to do the entire movie. So we got an idea as to what the final product would be like, could be like, and certainly that is the start of something good. And she's now going on to the next phase where she'll be seeking the finances to do an entire movie. So that premiere went well, and I want to express thanks to you, the general public, for the support on behalf of my cousin Juliet Jeffers. So Juliet, take a bow. You would have done well thus far, and I expect even better when the final product is seen. She's trying to get to Disney, those larger entities and companies in the United States, So I'm hoping someone from Disney will just have a look at it and say, listen, let's take a chance on Juliet with this Pangal. That would be good for her, good for Disney, and even much better for the island of Nevis, because we'll get the exposure, and the actors and actresses from here on the island who are a part of that particular movie will get the type of exposure, and I want to wish everyone well in that regard. Quickly though, the CCM will be having their children's party on the 20th of December. That is Saturday the 20th. There's a flyer floating around on Facebook, and of course I believe I would have heard it being mentioned in different areas before, but I'm putting in a plug now because it's my party and we're doing something for the young children here on the island of Nevis, and I want to express to the young children up there, boys and girls up there in St. James, put that in your calendar, or have your mom and your dad put that in their calendar so that you can come and partake or be a part of this event. I think that is the only event we'll have for the children this year, in terms of, even from my standpoint, last year we would have had children's party right there at VOJ. And we are not able to do that this year for a lot of reasons. But of course, the party has decided to put on this event, and this will be for the entire island of Nevis. So all of the children out there who would want to get something, a toy or some token, and get some refreshment for the Christmas season and bring in those joy, so to speak, and have some fun. This will be held on the 20th of December. There at the Villa grounds. I hope I'm right. I think it's a Villa. I don't have the flyer with me, but just put it in your calendar that the CCM will be having their children's party on that day. And then we'll hear more as we go along, right? Okay, moving along from there. Around this time of a new month, we'll always have some data for you regarding the Uwale Water Taxi Facility. And some may say, oh, not again. We are hearing it over and over. But you'll hear it. Once I come here, I'll be always reporting these numbers, because as I've said before, we keep track of these data because data help you to plan. And, well, not only short-term planning, but long-term planning, for example. I'll say this to you, because of the movement of passengers out there, National Bank, for example, would have approached NASPA with regards to building a ATM, a facility to house an ATM over there, because they realize the traffic is there, and if persons are moving back and forth, there'll be need for money, finances, or whatever the case might be, to go to St. Kitts for an event, or when you come over to Nevis and you're leaving, say, a place like Frigate Bay, and you didn't get some funds from a machine over there, you come to Nevis, it's right there. You come off the pier and you make a left, and you're inside of that particular small building that is being constructed there to house that machine. So because of data, you can plan and forecast. And so the plan is also, and the thinking is, not the plan, but thinking is, because of the amount of boats over there now and the movement of passengers, there may be the need to extend that pier at some point. Yeah. So all of these data are what you use to plan and forecast and to put certain measures in place as you go along. So the data is not necessarily just some numbers that are being thrown out. They are numbers that are being tracked for a lot of reasons, plenty of reasons, and some of the reasons I just gave just now. Plus, of course, the boat operators would need to know how many persons are moving, so that they can even think about purchasing an additional boat or boats. Yeah, or even additional operators may want to think about coming into the business as well. So there is something to it. But anyway, let's get to the numbers quickly, and I'll be quick about this. For the month of November, we had just about 25,913 passengers moving through that facility over there at Uwale. And indeed, compared to 2024, it was 21,300. So which means this year we have seen a substantial increase of 4,613 passengers. That's an additional amount that would have moved through that facility over and above the same time last year. So that is a trend in the right direction. And that is why I say it's important to look at the data and the numbers, because we can sit over there and see people moving, and yeah, you'll say, oh boy, a lot of people are moving. But what do you do in that case or that circumstance when you say a lot of people are moving? What do? You start to plan and say, well, hey, maybe it's time to purchase another taxi to operate out of Uwale Water Taxi Facility. Or maybe it's time for you to put on some additional activities here in Nevis, because the trend is showing that people are moving back and forth, more so coming to Nevis, and you want to make sure that you can capitalize on what is happening over there, of course. So that being the case, an additional 4,613 passengers over and above last year, same time, meaning November of last year. So that's a significant jump. And it therefore means that the demands for those services are certainly there. So we've been keeping a tally, from the time we started operating and keeping these data in May of 2019. So up to this point in time, well, let me back up and say up to the end of October, there was 1 million, sorry, let's get it right, 1,350,418 passengers would have pass through that facility. So we have now gone and add on what transpired in November, and we are now up to 1,376,331 passengers. So we're moving. The numbers are growing. The numbers are moving upwards, and of course, at some point, God's willing, we'll be able to say we have met the 2 million plateau or landmark or point, whatever adjective you want to use, but we're getting there. 1,376,331 passengers have used that facility over the last couple of years, from 2019 until now, the end of November. So numbers will continue to grow because we're heading into December, which is normally a robust time, a very busy time because of Carnival, Christmas, and of course flights are landing in St. Kitts, flight are landing in Nevis, and so you'll have the movement of passengers. And indeed, I will say, passengers land in Nevis and go across to St. Kitts as well too. So it is movement back and forth when it comes to visitors coming into our shores. Okay, moving along from there. Well, it's time is moving quickly, so quickly we move to something else. Well, Tuesday of this week saw the start of the budget, the Nevis Island Administration budget for 2026. They normally say it's the budget for 2025-2026 or 2026-2025. However you want to put it, it's boiled down to the fact that it is a budget that is presented and passed in Parliament to provide that roadmap or the way the island will be governed throughout the month or throughout the year 2026. So it is a 2026 budget, all right? And so that was presented on Tuesday by the Premier of Nevis, the Honorable Mark Brantley, and indeed on the Wednesday, which was the 4th of not 4th, it was presented on the 2nd, which was Tuesday, so the 3rd and onwards. Yes, so the 3rd would have seen the response to the budget, and that was done by the member for Nevis 5, Mrs. Cleone Stapleton Simmons. She would have done the response, well, so to speak, because she's not a member of the NRP. And the interesting thing is, on Monday, on Monday we would have seen something on Facebook that suggested that the leader of the NRP, who you would expect that response from, indicated that she will be out of the island of Nevis until the end of the year. Very strange to me, but you know, that is for the NRP to deal with here. We know we did not get a response from the NRP this year for that budget. We did not get a manifesto from them for the last election. We didn't have a presence, their presence in the House for this budget at all. And so it is nothing strange to me. It is just, in my humble opinion though, it is certainly not good to say, well, you have all this noise being made on a daily basis, all this talk and all of this writing that is out there on Facebook on a daily basis, but when it comes to the most important discussion or debate throughout the calendar year, which is the budget presentation and the discussion and debate regarding that budget, NRP is nowhere to be found. Nowhere to be found, and that must be telling to some extent, and it should not escape the people of Nevis that NRP and their leadership cannot be serious about anything to do with governance here in the island of Nevis, irrespective of what. The day before the budget was to be presented, we saw this thing that the leader of the NRP will not be here, and not be here until the end of the year. Yeah? And that, to me, speaks volume. I'm not going to go any further with it, but it must be said that they were not there. They refused to be there for whatever reason. I will have to leave it as that, and for people to be their own judge, because this is certainly the most important debate that you'll have in a calendar year, and for whatever reason they were not around to have a debate. So if they make noise here, there, or elsewhere, I am not too concerned about that. I am concerned about being there to respond to the budget that was presented by the Premier of Nevis, member for number Nevis 2, and so that did not happen. I wonder if this is the first time in the history of our parliament here on Nevis that this has ever happened. I know in 2023 there was a response for 47 minutes by the same leader of the NRP. I believe the next one after that in 2023 December was a little bit longer, somewhere around might about just over an hour, and then maybe an hour and change in 2024. So maybe, just maybe, there was no strength and no interest in providing a response. But let's move on from there, because the budget was presented, and I want to commend the Honorable Mark Brantley and his team for an excellent presentation of the budget for 2026. And you know, when we look at what a budget is, the purpose of the budget and the reason and rationale behind presentation of a budget is really to provide a roadmap for the ensuing year and how the monies will be spent, because all these, and there's a reason why you go to Parliament to do this, is because it is a legally binding document whereby it is saying to the ministries, this is the amount of money that is allocated to your ministry to spend legally over the next 12 months. Now, there are times when ministries will go beyond what is allocated for that particular year or for whatever period. And so, from time to time, you've heard about appropriation warrants. Then you have to go back to Parliament and ask for permission to spend an extra amount. Yeah, that is legally what is expected of any government. What is earmarked for each ministry was what was passed there in Parliament yesterday afternoon. And so, prior to the presentation of the budget, which was quite interesting and quite important for us to note, is that there was the laying of the audit report for 2024 in Parliament. And that is important because it's a legal requirement via the Constitution that that audit report be presented annually to the Parliament. I believe you would have heard in the past, and you heard the Premier reiterated that on Tuesday, that between the years 2006 to 2013, nothing was presented. It was not a CCM government at that time. It was the NRP who was in government at that time, and they presented none whatsoever. And that also must speak volume, because of course if you have that legal requirement under the Constitution, it must be done. You ask yourself the question, why would a government choose not to present their audited report? And there may be many reasons why. I know I can say why this party in government would have presented before 2006, and also since we've been in government, we have tried our very best to come up to date with these presentations of our audited report, and we have done so. We have done the work that the NRP should have done between 2006, and we are now doing the work that we are mandated to do as a party in government. So we are up to date to 2024. Those audit reports are up to date. And why do you present those? Well, it speaks to good governance in the first instance, that a party in government would ensure that they meet the constitutional requirements to present these audited reports. People want to know what's going on. And so that was done. And indeed, it also speaks to transparency. You know, there's nothing to hide. So if anyone on the other side was to pick up the audited report and go into it and say, this is what happened, this is what is going on, well, no problem. No problem, because that is what we must do if we are to be a transparent government. And also it speaks to respecting that trust that the people or the citizens of the island would have put into you as a government, or entrusted in you as a government. And so it speaks to all that. It also speaks to the overall management of the affairs of the island that you're mandated to do as well. So there are a lot of reasons why it is incumbent upon a government. It is a must, and I say must because there is no divergence on that. If you do that, you're going against the grain of the Constitution. So I say you must present these things. And that is why we are in compliance in terms of adhering what the Constitution require of us. And so that was presented. And so it is there for everyone to have a look at, including the NRP as well. And so I am pleased that that was done first thing up. Yeah, first thing. But you know something? The reason why perhaps we were only able to find out certain things when we got into government in 2013 was because those audited reports were never done. Yeah? So you remember I said it is a means of displaying transparency and letting people know what's going on and actually providing good governance in the process. All that was lacking. And so we wouldn't have known until we got into government that, let's say for example, honoring our commitments to all those international financial agencies and countries. We wouldn't have known that that was not being done until we got into government. And so the Kuwaiti Fund, for example, with whom we had an excellent relationship, where we got loans for, let's say, the Long Point Deepwater Harbor Port over here, the fixing up the Charleston waterfront and so forth. We wouldn't have known that the NRP refused to pay those loans back to the Kuwaiti Fund. And we lost all of the relationship, the good relationships we had with the Kuwaiti Fund. Those are no longer in existence. We would have known then, but we only found out later that the Taiwanese, with whom we had a number of loans, soft loans, we wouldn't have known then, but we found out later, after we would have had the audits done, that the NRP refused to pay those loans as well. Down in Trinidad, Unit Trust, that's a credit union who we had $10 million borrowed, US dollars that is, which was borrowed from Unit Trust in Trinidad. We did not know that the NRP was not paying until the audit was done of those accounts to know exactly what was happening there. And we had to do what is necessary as a government to bring these outstanding balances up to date. Millions of dollars. We lost some good relationships in the process. And so that is why it is important to have this document available to the general public, to whomever, so that they can see what is happening and you don't have to guess. And so yes, you can scrutinize it, you can shred it apart, you can say whatever you want about our governance. All I know, you did not do it, you refused to do it, and we have been doing it since 2013. Up until now, we're up to date, and we did all the hard work that you were supposed to do in NRP. So who's best to run the island of Nevis? It has to be the CCM, because the CCM is doing CCM's work, the people's work, and NRP work for them. Yeah? So let's move on. Okay. So I said that the budget presentation was done on the 2nd of December, Tuesday the 2nd of December, and the response came. And so with this budget, well, the caption of the budget was a purpose-driven agenda, building our sustainable future. A purpose-driven agenda, building our sustainable future. And so, the budget, a purpose-driven agenda for sustainability because I have dissected it and looked at it this way. If it's a purpose-driven agenda to build our sustainable future, so it's a sustainable future in job creation and employment. It is a sustainable future in public and private partnership for development. It is a sustainable future in the entertainment industry, for example. We started this movie industry. It is a sustainable future in the tourism sector, construction, repositioning of our agriculture, redefining the financial services sector, infrastructural development, tackling the crime situation here on Nevis and in the Federation, of course. We've got to go beyond the Federation and maybe on the island of Nevis and say the Federation too. And it's also our pursuit in renewable energy, transforming the education sector, the health sector, and all of the various sectors that will be bolstered or built in a way so as to make sure that our future is sound and secure. We use the word sustainability. And when we say sustainability, what do we mean? We mean sustainability in anything means that it is available, it is accessible, and of course affordable. So there are some key ingredients that goes into sustainability so as to make the lives and the livelihood of your people much easier and much more comfortable. So all these things are being done to ensure that we have that sustainable future, all of the sectors. And of course the presentation was done around all of those sectors, because each minister would have done their presentation and reported on their various ministries to the general public, and then of course chart a way forward in terms of the future, short term, medium term, and long term. So all of this is important, and of course we in this small island developing state, we know there are challenges. There will be challenges as we go along the course of our development, but indeed, we still have to continue in our pursuit to ensure that we are fulfilling our mandate to the people of Nevis. And so we have different external matters and issues that may affect us as we continue in our effort to develop the island of Nevis. But these cannot stop us. What we do is to adjust as we go along. For example, in the financial services sector, of course, we have heard that there have been some improvement there in terms of the amount of companies that have been registered in recent years. Also, we have seen a number of international banks that have been established here on the island of Nevis, and it appears that there are I believe I heard about 3 different applications that are pending. So that is how you try to counter some of the challenges that you're having. Yes, the CBI program, we understand, is not as robust as it used to be before, and it seems like the opposition is gleeful and gleefully talking about that oh, CBI receipts are down. Yes, they're down. And when they were up, we were clamoring for our fair share. We were clamoring day and night, morning, noon, and night, and we were clamoring, and the NRP was out there talking against our efforts, fighting against our effort. Every time we talk about fair share, they had something to say to counter that. Meanwhile, the NRP didn't get a cent out of St. Kitts, out of the sale of all passports. As a matter of fact, I'll back up and put this footnote in. Yes, they got a couple dollars, $4 million in loans. Yeah, but in terms of getting any subvention from St. Kitts, they were hoodwinked into sending all of that money over to St. Kitts, and then whatever pool it was sent in, a bit was sent back. Whatever they said, 24% or whatever percentage was. Rubbish. We are saying that the CBI receipts are what we call non-tax revenue. This is like selling a passport, an asset of the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. It has on St. Kitts and Nevis or St. Christopher and Nevis. And we were clamoring and saying we need our fair share, 24%, whatever it was or whatever it is. That is what we've been clamoring for years. And RP was not in that with us. They were talking against it, and now that the receipts are down, seems as though they're joyful about it, gleeful about it. But meanwhile, when they were in government, when they were there, not a penny, put aside a loan, not a penny was received by them. They never asked. They had all of the balance of power over there in St. Kitts. I recall their loan representative was there, and all he had to do with the power that he had was to say, listen, if I am to stay here and hold up your government, I need $10 million to take over to the island of Nevis and hand it over to Van Samry, who was the premier then. That's all he had to say. And he would have been a champion in his own rights then. And he would have been one who would have been lifted up by the people of Nevis. But then NRP tell him no. Don't make no noise for the money. Stay over there and collect. But don't make no noise for none. But the bottom line is, when it's all said and done, if you never got any, you never made any noise for any, you never pursued what was rightfully yours, then who are you to come and lecture anyone about fair share, about CBI receipts, or anything of that nature? And you listen to some of the rhetoric coming out of St. Kitts as if The former Prime Minister, for example, every time he get a chance, he talk about what he gave to Nevis, 66 million. He wasn't giving Nevis people the money. He was making sure that what is rightfully ours, which was not anywhere close to what it should have been, was rightfully given to us. When good came under that program, all of it stayed in St. or most, if not all. Let me say all, because the little bit that came, can't say it was anything. But most stayed in St. Kitts. But when bad came, we all would have suffered the bad. You had the story up there with Magadam in Canada. You hear about all the hush puppy story. You hear about all who had our passport all up and down the world who were being thrown in jail. And then all of the sanctions came, all of the difficulties came. You go to Barbados and you were challenged in many ways to get a visa because everyone was looking at us. We had countries that withheld that visa-free access to their country because of the difficulties with the program. We had to suffer all that. We had to all suffer that here on the island of Nevis. And so when it came time to clamor for our fair share, we were hoping that the NRP would have been decent enough to jump on board as a Nevision, or as Nevisians as they are, and clamor and shout and holler and scream just like the CCM was doing. And we're still doing the same thing. It's not so much so as in the past. The rhetoric is not as boisterous as in the past because, of course, we understand the program has its challenges now. Yeah? But that is why I say, under the leadership of Mark Brantley and the CCM is in good, the island of Nevis is in good hands. Yeah? There's a tagline for this insurance company in the States, the United States. You're in good hands with all the states. Well, you're in good hands with CCM. And anyhow the NRP come and tell you anything and tell you the best for Nevis, just tell them NRP best to keep from, yeah? Yeah. So, of course, there'll be challenges, and challenges are there throughout the world. We know there are challenges with, disruption in the supply chain, where goods and services are much more expensive now, much more challenging to access certain goods at a cheaper price, and it will be reflected in our supermarkets here. But the government continue to do what is necessary. I know for sure one of the ways that has been countered is that we have ensured that certain concessions are passed on to our citizens. If you go to the Ministry of Finance, of course, and you're a first-time home owner, home builder, if you're building a house for the first time, there are various concessions that you can get there, of course. You just need to go to the Ministry of Finance and inquire, and they'll tell you what the process is like. Indeed, if you're trying to, let's say, renovate your home, build a fence, build a driveway, paint up your home, put in some new windows, whatever the case might be, once you're doing renovation work, there's also concession available to you. So we've been trying to do quite a number of things so as to ensure that the burden is a bit easier and a little bit lighter on you. So it's not that we're just talking, and we're not just trying to just say things that are difficult and we can't do anything. We have been trying and we'll continue to try, because that is what we're mandated to do. As a matter of fact, in terms of the numbers, I can't give you the numbers now, but it is obvious that the employment here on the island of Nevis continue to increase. Unemployment has decreased and employment has increased. And that is reflected in the housing levy. I don't have the document with me, but of course Social Security will put out this data from time to time, and it shows that there's an upward trend in the amount of persons employed here on the island of Nevis. As a matter of fact, let me say, and let me say this, I interact with people when I meet them from time to time, and there are quite a number of non-nationals who are here working in the construction industry. And I will tell you, when it comes to construction is booming, robust, whatever adjective you want to use, here on the island of Nevis. And so when you look around and you see all of these concrete trucks moving back and forth on the island, as far as I'm concerned, there is no rally going on for concrete trucks. They're going somewhere to pour concrete. And if concrete is being demanded or ordered, it therefore means there's somewhere to pour it. And that's where these construction sites are all around the island, and that's where these concrete trucks are going. As a matter of fact, down there at Four Seasons, I visited that site last week, They're going to be building 8 units down there with 10 condos in each. That's an additional 80 condos. And so you have a demand down there for workers, construction workers. Where they're going to come from? I'm sure on neighboring islands. Persons will be coming here to find employment, because we have the highest, the highest minimum wage. I believe it's about 12 or 12.50. There are persons who are telling me that in certain islands they're working for $300 and $350 a week in the construction industry. But here on the island of Nevis, you're getting anywhere around $200 to $250 per day once you're a skilled worker. So of course there are opportunities there for neighboring islands and neighboring brothers and sisters to come and work in the construction sector, because if buildings are there to put up, we need workers. And if this is the case at this point in time, when in truth and in fact there are more things to happen next year, then there'll be a demand for workers around here. And that is not a bad thing. Or people would have left here and gone down to St. Thomas, gone down to St. Martin, Tortola, and neighboring islands to work and build up those islands. And we don't mind our neighbors coming here, our brothers and sisters coming here and help us to build. Some persons here on the island have 2 and 3 jobs, and some may think that's a bad thing. That's a good thing. And here's why it's a good thing. Some persons who have a government or are employed by the government, they have their salary that they get monthly, of course. That goes towards their mortgage and whatever else. They go to work and they tell themselves whatever they get at this particular job, they're going to put it towards their children's education. Or if they have plans to buy a car, a motor vehicle, they'll say this extra income is going to go towards the purchase of a vehicle. Or else they may have some additional expenses that they want to undertake. So the opportunity is there. Here's the thing. If there was not any extra jobs available here on the island, they would have been much more, well, they would be in a much more difficult situation. But of course, the fact that they can have that pleasure of having a second job, a third job, it says something about the economy of Nevis, and it says something about the work environment here on the island of Nevis, that there are jobs available. And so when you hear persons on the other side saying, oh, people have to work 2 and 3 jobs, that it means things bad. Things are good as a result. I don't know why anyone would think that things are so bad when you have 3 jobs. I wish I could have worked another 2 or 3, but I have so many things on my plate currently with the airport and what's not. That's enough for me for now. But those of you out there who can work an additional job, go and work. You finish at 4, whatever job you're doing, at 5, go and work. Do not let anybody dissuade you from doing what is necessary to provide yourself with the necessary income and the necessary finances to make your life and your family's life any better. Do not let anybody dissuade you. If you have challenges, perhaps in the family circle with maybe someone to look after your children, well, sit down and have a discussion. That child didn't come on his or her own, so you have a discussion with both sides and you figure out the best possible way to ensure that there's someone who is providing that guardianship, yeah, so you can go out and make your extra money to buy whatever you want to buy. When things are good, take advantage of good situations, because it's not going to stay good forever. We've had our challenges in this island. We have challenges with COVID-19, for example, when things were difficult. Some persons who would have lost their job during that period of time. Some were, working, just a few days or whatever the case might be, whatever sector you were in, you were impacted negatively. So now that things are positive, now that things are good, go out and take advantage of a good situation. Do what is necessary to ensure that you're staying afloat, yeah? And don't let nobody, dissuade you in any way, as I've said before. So, this budget that was presented, it was certainly focused on making sure and ensuring that we're going to improve water supply here on the island of Nevis, improve electricity, improve healthcare, improve education, improve every area even the delivery of services and so forth to our seniors, to make sure we are providing them with all of the necessary services to make their life even better than it was before as they go into older age, because our elderly are living longer and we want them to live long and happy lives. Yeah, and so the government has done a tremendous job in ensuring that they're putting all those things in place. Yeah, and so we move on from here into a new year. This is the Christmas season coming, and of course many of you will have a lot of things to do. You're going to buy presents, you're going to spend time with your family. Family members are coming home to spend time with you. Have a good time. Go and have a good time. Those who will be working, go and work, and when you get a chance to enjoy your life, you know. So between now and next year, you'll hear a lot more about this proposed development as well that is to come. The Destiny Project that has been on the mind and the lips of everybody, and so there'll be more discussions about that, I'm sure. But Destiny is one of those transformational projects that is going to come to the island of Nevis, and throughout the whole of next year there'll be some movement on this particular project, and I'm sure when it's all said and done, the negatives will be there, but the positives certainly outweigh the negatives, and I want us to think about the positives. And as I said before, there are opportunities that will present themselves with this project. And I did touch on real estate and what can be done by our people to build apartment complex and see in which way you can start to put yourself in a position to get some of the returns from this investment that is to come. Don't always accentuate the negative or think about the negative. Go and accentuate the positive and look at what is positive to come out of this project for sure. You know, before I close, let me just touch, because it has become so trivial in some discussion whereby persons are talking about the amount of persons, 10,000 persons. Some are talking about the roads are now congested and all kind of things. Let me say this. I remember the days, I have to say this quickly before I close. I remember the days when we used to come into Charlestown. We had a two-way traffic down there at the bottom of Craddock Road coming around there by Harlem Shelter and so forth. Now it's a one-way traffic. It means that the amount of traffic would have increased and changes had to be made. Then the development of the Charlestown waterfront, Samuel Hunkins Drive, that is, one way out of Charlestown, for example. I remember when we used to have Bournemouth and Tropical used to offload containers down there at the main pier in Charlestown. We have gone beyond that and gone over to Long Point now, built up a deep water harbor out there. We have gone beyond many of the things that we used to be accustomed to, because times would have changed and we have changed with the times. So if the traffic is congested now is the time to start thinking about going up to the foot of Nevis Peak, where you had that upper ring road and open it up. So all these things has to be a part of our development into the future to ensure the development over here in the south. If there's a road going over there, we have to figure out how we will get the road beyond that development and all the way over to Zion and that type of thing, so that at least you are eliminating some of the bottleneck that exists or may exist as a result. So we're not staying one place. Things are fluid. And so we must understand that if we are developing at a particular rate, then the infrastructure will develop along with it. So all of this talk about, oh, congested, 8 o'clock in the morning, traffic is heavy, man, rubbish. Good thinking government will think long term and start to put things in place. That is why we have storage capacity of water now of 4-point-something million gallons of water can be stored here on the island of Nevis. Back in 2013, we were able to store just about 700,000 gallons. See where we are now? And before the end of this upcoming year, 2026, we should be storing over 5 million gallons of water. So that is what you do when you're developing an island. That is how you're supposed to think, and not think negative and saying, we don't have this. We're going to provide. Because that is what we are supposed to do as a government. I hear some music in my ears. My technician is smiling, so it means zip it and be out of here. So thank you for listening as always. 1 hour, they say, is very short, depending on what you want to do. I have so many things I could have touched. But anyway, I touched a few things and I was happy to be here this afternoon. I also want to say in closing that, as I always say, if you go to church on a Saturday, go and serve your God. If you go on a Sunday, do likewise. Say a prayer for this station and the staff here. Say a prayer for myself, of course. Say a prayer for the island of Nevis and the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. We pray for God's intervention and God's blessings. And so I will want to close by saying have a wonderful weekend. May God continue to bless all of us. Be safe and let us continue to build this island of Oz, and so that we can leave something behind that is worthy of our effort, which is a beautiful legacy. Thank you for listening. Have a wonderful weekend, and God bless you all.
The views and opinions expressed on the preceding program were solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Nevis Broadcasting Company Limited.